Hello and happy Monday. I'm Kat Kruger. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently playing a solo game of Vaesen. It is, for anyone who's not familiar, it's published by Free League, and there's usually like you know, a group version. The base game is, for a party um, of investigators, and this is the hardcover here. It's a Nordic horror role-playing game. So it's very much in the same vein as like Gothic horror, except it's Nordic. And I've played it in a group before, really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite tabletop RPGs out there. Um, but because I don't have a group right now, a friend let me know that there's a solo version, and since on Mondays that's what I stream, I decided I would do a game of Vaesen this time. And um, so I'm currently playing Detective Astrid Hansen, um, sort of a Holmesian inspired character. She's middle aged. Right now, her uh, oh, what's the word for it? Her um, wealth, I guess, is sort of like middle class, um, not very wealthy, but she's also not living in poverty. She does, however, have a laudanum addiction, which I haven't really gotten into. And if you're familiar with how I play my games, they're usually PG, PG-13. So I'm not going to go into any great detail, even though, she's the investigation that I rolled was actually into a brutal murder, and even that I've sort of like glossed over some of the details. We do. We haven't gotten very far, mostly because a lot of life stuff has been happening. My elderly dog. Well, first I was solo parenting for a while. Then I had my unfortunately my 16-year-old dog had a back injury. Um, he's recovering right now, and I think he's got mobility back. But yeah, it's just been a lot in the past like months. That said, I guess I'll just sort of review what has been happening, not just for your benefit, but for my benefit as well. So gonna go back here, and Astrid was on a sabbatical. Um, her journal has not mentioned why. Um, and so she was on her first day in a town called Karlskrona, and the vicar approached her, handed her a letter with instructions to read it in private. And the letter was from a mysterious patron. I believe last episode we named a bunch of the NPCs that I hadn't named. It looked like there had been a brutal murder. There had So somebody had passed away in this town. This mysterious patron believes that um, this individual was actually murdered, and it wasn't the police, the local police or constabulary called it a hunting accident. But as Astrid went to the coroner's, um, saw that indeed there were it looked like the victim had been attacked by an animal. It brought back flashbacks of Astrid's first encounter with a Vaesen. And a Vaesen is um, a monster in this world, but only people with the sight can see Vaesen. Um, and usually the sight comes to people who, you know, uh, have had some sort of experience, often traumatic experience. And in Astrid's case, it was a werewolf. So she was brought back to this memory of her encounter with a werewolf. Um, she looked for signs of like a curse or something that had been um, um, that the victim had. Didn't see that, and then so she went to her the victim's employer. The victim worked for a merchant from out of town, um, and at the manor, she was greeted by the butler, who was very suspicious. Um, and the butler eventually got the merchant to come down. Merchant looked a little disheveled and haggard. Um, Astrid also noticed that his knuckles were reddened and bloodied, even though he was attempting to hide them in his pockets. Um, and when she noted it, uh, she saw that he clenched his fists in a way that made her feel like he was um, uh, had a violent nature, and passed it off as a hunting accident, trying to save Anna, his servant's life. Um, but he had been knocked back unconscious in the dark of this cave where the attack happened, and then it was his butler who rescued him, and he's been recuperating since. Um, and then he just like very abruptly um, asked Astrid to leave, and it seemed like it was prompted by the butler. And that's sort of where we left off. So some of the things about this Vaesen solo game is it's all like many solo RPGs. There's a lot of writing prompts, and because you don't want to spoil anything for yourself, there's no actual pre-written mystery to solve. What that means is I sometimes will roll dice. Um, it's D66, and I also draw cards from a standard deck of playing cards. And a lot of this is essentially like an oracle deck, so it will give you a positive or negative outcome of what you're trying to do. Often it's, you're doing your investigation, it's either helpful or not helpful, and then there's like varying degrees of that. And it could also be like you're placed in a very dangerous situation as well. Um, I think that's pretty much it. I think some of the NPCs I'll list off here because if I have to refer to them again, you'll know who they are. So we've got the town vicar is Francis Fisker. The mysterious patron has been named Hjalper, which is Swedish for helper. Dr. Ernst Alverson is the coroner. The murder victim is named Anna Eklund. Uh, and then the merchant and former employer of the murder victim is Reginald Fortescue, Esquire. And we've also got Patrick Mulcahy, the butler. Who knows at this point who did it and whether or not it was the merchant, the butler, um, somebody else, or an actual Vaesen. So we are going to continue with the investigation. I'm going to move over to my journal view here so you can take a look at what I've written so far. All right, so we are on, let's see, what day are we? We're still on the first day, actually. It was March 11 at 1:14 p.m. And I think the next step is probably to investigate the cave where the attack happened. And I think Astrid is probably going to hire uh, a guide to bring her to the cave. It's still the afternoon, so she might attempt to do it now. I think it could be a little dangerous because depending on how far out it is, um, they could be there after dark. So I don't know. She could also wait until the morning to try to figure it out. Um, Let me take a look at this is the solo rules here. All right, so we can. This is the cheat sheet for playing the mystery. So we've got the investigation, we got the quest giver, and the misdeed. Um, Once on the interesting locations table to determine where the misdeed occurred. And then we record all of this as our first entry in the journal. We've been using the oracle to determine the direction of the mystery whenever needed. Roll an encounter when relevant. And take a look at what that means here. Characters will always meet a contact when they arrive and become acquainted with those who might be involved in the mystery. The archetypes in the chart below have their own attributes, talents, and skills listed on page 166. When creating non-player characters, you can use the list of traits found on page 167. Furthermore, it is always good to give your NPCs a name, which I completely ignored during my first couple journal entries. Okay. I think maybe what I'll do then is I will roll this and just see what happens on her walk back to her lodgings. 25. Miller. All right. So we've got a miller, and the archetype is farmer for this one. So I'm going to start here by writing March 11. 3, let's see, it was 1:14 in the afternoon when she went over to the merchant's house. I'll say like an hour transpires, and then a little bit of time passes. She makes her way back to her lodging. So maybe like 3, I don't know. She's very precise. 3:23. And I'm going to go over here, and I need a name for the miller. So what I usually do is I go to behind the name, I'm going to look up a Swedish name. let's say it's a feminine name. Scroll down a bit. Hedvig. Let's say Hedvig is her name. Where did my pencil go? All right, and then we're gonna go to page 166 and 167 for the archetype and some traits. Okay, so this merchant, her skills are manipulation, learning, and observation, and some traits here. Let's just roll another d66. 33. Just hateful. Hedvig is a hateful miller. Okay. So I think what's going to happen is she's going to Astrid is just going to be I guess she won't take her coach all the way to her lodgings. I think she might step out early at a market or something, and this is how she meets meets the miller. So what do we say here? This down so I have a little bit more space between entries. As I made my way back to my lodgings by way of coach, I pondered the strange circumstances of the murder. I could not help but could not help but notice the strange relationship between the the merchant and his butler. It seemed to me the latter held some sort of sway over his employer. As a walk often helps to jog ideas. Oh gosh, one moment. I asked the coach driver to let me off by a market near my lodgings. And the bustle of the vendors made for a sort of a sort of white noise. And I almost found myself completely immersed in my own thoughts when a rather loud psst interrupted my I don't want to say thoughts again, my process. Just need one moment here. Sorry about that. Didn't want to blow my nose on on camera. All right. So Astrid has been interrupted by someone. Um, Whoops. Should put that on a new line. You're the detective. A woman about my age inquired. When I nodded in the affirmative, she motioned for me to come closer. I obliged, noting the bags of flour that indicated her profession as miller. And she spoke to me with uh, she spoke to me with a hatred she could not conceal. Maybe not hatred, but with a malice that could not be hidden from my detection. Um, Now, I should have written down the NPC traits because I'm trying to remember. I think so. The merchant had violent tendencies, but the butler, gosh, I can't remember now. The butler was I think deviant was one of them, and gosh. All right, I've forgotten. So she's going to say something about maybe witnessing Reginald. Poor girl, Anna, she said. She lamented. That merchant has a violent temper and oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to determine whether or not this was going to be helpful encounter or not. Draw a card to determine how helpful an encounter is. A red card, hearts or diamonds, means the encounter is helpful. A black card, clubs or spades, means it is dangerous. All right. So we have a 6 of hearts, which means it is somewhat helpful. That merchant has a violent temper and Patrick, the butler, is a shady fellow. I'd wager the maid, the maid found some business of theirs. She wasn't supposed to, and wound up in her current state. Let's see. I noted, I took notes in my see. I took down her name and words into my investigative notebook. And inquired how she might have gained this information, to which she laid claim to knowing other people's business, which I think is helps us with this being somewhat helpful, but somewhat not. Um, all right. With that, I thanked her for her time and made my way back to my lodgings to procure a hunting guide for the morning, for the next morning. All right, so I will read all of that. Okay, March 11th, 3:23 p.m. As I made my way back to the lodgings by way of coach, I pondered the strange circumstances of the murder. I could not help but notice the strange relationship between the merchant and his butler. It seemed to me the latter held some sort of sway over his employer. As a walk often helps to jog ideas, I asked the coach driver to let me off by a market near my lodgings. The bustle of the vendors made for a sort of white noise, and I almost found myself completely immersed in my own thoughts when a rather loud "psst" interrupted my process. "You're the detective?" a woman about my age inquired. When I nodded in the affirmative, she motioned for me to come closer. I obliged, noting the bags of flour that indicated her profession as a miller. She spoke to me with a malice that could not be hidden from my detection. "Poor girl, Anna," she lamented. "That merchant has a violent temper, and Patrick the butler is a shady fellow. I'd wager the maid found some business of theirs she wasn't supposed to, and wound up in her current state." I took down her name and words into my investigative notebook and inquired how she might have gained this information, to which she laid claim to knowing other people's business. With that, I thanked her for her time and made my way back to my lodgings to procure a hunting guide for the next morning. All right, so one thing I need to do is mind the time. that's taking place in this game. I think the longer it takes to investigate, things are more likely to exhaust my character. Oh, here we go. I needed to draw cards for the mental state of that NPC too. It's been a while since I've done this. Still getting used to all this. Time. When interacting with NPCs and items in a scene, you should have an idea of how long things take. In the journal above, it took the character 4 hours from the invitation to the beginning of the journey. Blah, blah, blah. Another misdate can be rolled after a few days, or you can use the list of keywords on page 7 to see if anything new happens. After making a journal entry, or when you do not know how to proceed in the mystery, it's time to use the Oracle draw card and check the table below. This is also, need to be doing this more frequently, I think. You become, okay, so I'm going to draw a card. Got a 5 of diamonds, which is red. So I roll 3 keywords on page 7 and connect them to something positive. Okay. Okay, 45. Magical. Just gonna write some notes here. Magical. 32. Second one. Home. Final roll. 35. Inside. Magical home inside. To make that somehow positive. I think what's going to happen is when she'll travel to the hunting lodge and meet the hunter there, and their home is going to be magical. So here we go. March 12. I'm gonna look up when sunrise is in Sweden. Sunrise, Sweden, March. 6 a.m. ish. After a hearty meal and a good night's rest, I made my journey to the Hunter's Lodge. Outside the village. I think it's actually a town. And I need to come up with a name here for the hunter. We have here. Let's look for another feminine name here. Let's go with Marta. Okay, I'm going to add a couple notes here. I'm going to put that Hedwig. We've got the Miller. I put hateful. He was deviant. He was violent. And now I'm going to roll for 26. Oh, we also have Marta, the violent hunter. And I need to roll for their frame of mind. Higher card is the primary mental state. So we've got a Jack of Hearts here, which means talkative, and Five of Clubs is deluded. Talkative and deluded. So maybe the house that she lives in is indeed magical, but is maybe having some negative effects on this character. And then the other thing that I have to draw is helpful or not. Ooh, not good. Neutral. So we're not going to get a lot of information out of this this character, I don't think, but at least we'll be able to go to the cave. All right. After a hearty meal and a good night's rest, I made my journey to the hunter's lodge outside. Of town. There, I was met by my guide. Was it Marta? Marta. I was immediately struck by the sense that there was something magical inside her dwelling. Unfortunately, the hunter was of a talkative sort, and I could not hone in precisely on what sort of magic was present. I'm wondering, I might try to roll something here. Maybe not. I'll wait until we actually go into the cave. Let's see. I could not hone in precisely on what sort of magic was present. Marta spoke rather excitedly about the prospect of aiding in the investigation, stating She was a master hunter, even of the unknown. After a while, it became clear that she believed in a variety of cryptids, but did not possess the gift. Was it delusion or the magic of the lodge that caused these beliefs? Okay. I am going to take a brief break. We are now in the foresty area, about to go into the cave. This hunter may or may not actually know what she's doing, but I do think that we're actually going to make it to the correct cave, and then we'll see if we get more evidence at the cave, and see whether or not Vaesen was involved. And yeah, that's coming after the break in about 5 minutes. All right. All right, I am back. Thanks so much for joining. Continuing to play solo Vaesen, Thursday's Child. Uh, Thursday's Child is a reference in the game to anyone with the gift, and people with the gift have the ability to see Vaesen or the like monsters in this world. And this world is essentially a gothic horror world set in this case, it's in Scandinavian countries, but they've also got expansions um, where it's set in the UK and other places. Hello, Jane. Welcome. Um, I my so Grayson, my kid, is in the other room um, watching the eclipse on the NASA feed right now. I just remembered that that's actually happening right now. Kind of fitting for Vaesen, right? I'm not sure if the UK gets it. Um, we're only going to get like um, where my sister is in around Toronto. They're getting like 99% totality, which is cool. Um, anyway, we I hope you had a good weekend. I got to play some D&D this weekend, and I was took an overnight trip to take a little bit of a break with a friend and saw some of the D20 games, which was awesome. Um, but we are in the midst of Vaesen, and so after I think it was in last week's episode, we'd met up with the merchant and the butler, um, and it sort of abruptly um, the interview came to an end because the butler sort of urged quietly urged the merchant to ask me to leave. Um, oh, cool. Yeah, the last time we had an eclipse here, it wasn't that long ago, and we were supposed to get a good view, like a good view of it, but it was overcast here because, of course, it's Seattle. So we watched it on the NASA feed again. Um, anyway, um, so Astrid made her way back to her lodgings by coach, and she was trying to think of the strange circumstances um, around the merchant and the butler. There was a strange relationship. Yeah, it was really nice to see Brittany and Jess. They are doing well. Um, we talked a lot about like books. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my dog is doing better. He's gained mobility in his back legs, but it's still work. Like he's still needing to sleep a lot, and he's still getting some therapy. But he's at least thankfully not completely paralyzed back there. Um, let's see. Astrid decided she was going to get off the coach a little early so that she could walk around and jog some ideas. And then so she went to the market near her lodgings, and one of the vendors um, called her over and um, basically said that she had a she knew that the merchant had a violent temper and that Patrick the butler was shady. Um, but Astrid, from the cards that I drew, um, knew that um, she was hateful, and that this interaction, while somewhat moving the needle forward, was not super helpful. And so, this Miller, um, what was her name? gosh, um, Hedvig, the miller, um, uh, only knew this information because she claims to know other people's business. So, take that with a grain of salt, right? Um, so Astrid made her way back to her lodgings to procure a hunting guide for the next morning. I also drew some cards that said that what happens next would be there would be a magical home inside. Those were the three keywords that I got. And so she made her way to the hunter's lodge outside of town, and that lodge itself had a magical presence inside of it, but Esther couldn't figure out what it was because the hunter is super talkative and a little delusional. So the determined that the hunter believes in cryptids, not necessarily Vaesen. Um, and so we have this guide who doesn't have the gift, um, and we're about to go into the cave. So we've got a new page here. I'm going to put we're in March 12. Started off at around 6 in the morning, and I think we'll say it's like a 45-minute trek, ish, 6:43 a.m. Okay, take a quick look over here. 192 in my book. Okay, I don't think I need to roll on this location table because I know where she needs to investigate first, so we're going to do this, and then I think I might start rolling on the table when I sort of run out of um, like more logical connect the dots sort of thing. So what we're going to do here instead is figure out how helpful this encounter is. Uh-oh. I got a queen of spades. So the black cards mean um, it's very dangerous, or there's danger involved. Um, and then the denomination of the card tells you how helpful or dangerous the encounter is. So we are entering into a very dangerous situation here. Queen of spades. All right. So I think I'm going to look at more information about what happens with Vaesen here. Once you have gathered some clues using investigation and try to link the clues to Vaesen, you make a learning test. Okay. Okay. So I need to make an investigation test first. Let's go to my character sheet here. And investigation got +3. Well, it's been a while since I've actually played Vaesen. Let me just double check what I need to do here. I think it's just 1d6, or is it 2d6? Um, hmm, just 1 second. Introduction, skills, and skill tests. Page 37. This can't be. Yeah, I know it's danger is lurking. Okay. Oh, it's okay. I'm remembering now. It's based on how many dice I have. I mean, how many what do you call it? Attributes I have. So for investigation, I've got 3. 11, 14. And then, okay, in the solo mode, what constitutes a success? A learning test. Once you've gathered some clues using investigation and try to link the clues to a Vaesen, make a learning test. Okay. All right. So I am going to go back here and just say that um, on our journey to the scene of the crime, Marta continued her chatter. As she led me forward. Whatever creatures were about would surely hear us coming. I kindly asked her for silence. When she indicated we were near. However, she did not take so kindly to my request, and signaled for me to go ahead. Entering the cave. This is where I'm gonna see. So I got, once you've gathered some clues, so I think one of the clues was there was a like a beast attack. So we'll, I need to make a learning test now. So I've got two for learning. That got me an 8. And then table can be used freely, but usually after rolling the directions of mystery. Searching for clues, you make an investigation test. Each success, you roll for a clue on the table. Okay, so I will, I'm gonna roll on this table. I'm not really sure if this is actually gonna work out though, because we are specifically in a cave, so that's a 43. So worn out piece of clothing covered in bloodstains. All right, well that is helpful. So entering the cave, I immediately spotted a worn out piece of, let's see, yeah, piece of clothing. What's that? Covered in bloodstains. Covered in bloodstains. I think we investigate the piece of fabric now. 12. That is another success. So I guess we're gonna learn something else. Oh wait, hold on. What's this? What's this other clue table? Okay, this gives another, a more specific Vaesen clue. One, two, and three. Hmm. Okay. Many Vaesen initially cause the same type of mischief, but small details may differ. Those below provides 3 suggested clues per Vaesen to help you identify which Vaesen you are dealing with. The clues are categorized 1, 2, and 3, the first clue being the most general and the last being the most unique to the Vaesen in question. Okay. Okay, so we have this brutal murder one. Or another brutal murder here as well. 2 possibilities, I think. I am going to roll another learning though to see if we can learn more about this piece of fabric or cave. Okay, so we see a dying animal, injured but still alive. Um, let's see, it's a worn out piece of clothing covered in bloodstains. Picking it up. I placed it in my satchel for further investigation at a later time. Low wine, what's it? Caught my attention. And I spotted hunting dog, injured, deeper in the cave. All right. It had the same claw marks on it as Anna Eklund. And I was overcome by memories of my first encounter with Vaesen. My mind raced and I pushed Marta out of my path as I fled the scene. Moments later, the sound of a gun took me out of my panic. Marta around me, birds flew from their cover, and the sun felt warm on my face. Marta emerged from the cave and handed me the dog's collar. Now we have to figure out who this dog belongs to. And what is the dog's name? Or what was the dog's name? Mhm. I think I might leave that. I think what I'm going to do is, Astrid is so shaken by this. I think I'm going to probably draw another misdeed that happens when she gets back. Um, so March 12th, 12:24 p.m. Much of the morning passed in a haze. I have little recollection of how I made it back to my lodgings. Back in town. Okay. Though I had two clues in hand, I could not calm my nerves enough to do anything with them. Let's see. Um, I had brought with me a tincture of laudanum, but resisted for now. And let's see. My sabbatical has turned out to be anything but restful. Restful. Okay, I'm going to read the last two journal entries here. On our journey to the scene of the crime, Marta continued her chatter as she led me forward. Whatever creatures were about would surely hear us coming. I kindly asked her for silence when she indicated we were near. However, she did not take so kindly to my request and signaled for me to go ahead. Entering the cave, I immediately spotted a worn-out piece of clothing covered in bloodstains. Picking it up, I placed it in my satchel for further investigation at a later time. A low whine caught my attention, and I spotted a hunting dog injured deeper in the cave. It had the same claw marks on it as Anna Eklund, and I was overcome by memories of my first encounter with Vaesen. My mind raced, and I pushed Marta out of my path as I fled the scene. Moments later, the sound of a gun took me out of my panic. Around me, birds flew from their cover, and the sun felt warm on my face. Marta emerged from the cave and handed me the dog's collar. March 12, 12:24 p.m. Much of the morning passed in a haze. I have little recollection of how I made it back to my lodgings back in town. Though I had two clues in hand, I could not calm my nerves enough to do anything with them. I had brought with me a tincture of laudanum, but resisted, for now. My sabbatical has turned out to be anything but restful. Okay, so that was her very dangerous encounter. We did get a couple clues though, and I think I'm going to roll for another misdeed. Gonna have to check how to do that again. Page 188. '64. Inexplicable weather phenomena. I'll go back over here with the clues list and see. I might. Inexplicable weather phenomenon. I need to look up what this creature is before I go down this path because it might not make sense. Where are the creatures? Hmm. Gosh, this weather phenomenon doesn't really make sense with this. It could be be an enchantment or a curse, though. Okay, so I'm going to say with this weather, I think Astrid's going to be woken up from a nap. March 12, 2:58 p.m. A quick rapping on my door woke me from my midday slumber. As I approached the door, a note was slipped inside. Before I picked it up, I glanced down the hall, but whoever delivered the letter had vanished. Inside was a note from, I have to remember how to spell their name, Hjalber, stating the residence of Reginald Fortescue, Esquire, had burned to the ground. Outside, I heard the sound of hail. But when I glanced up, it looked to be Let's say a swarm of locusts. Okay, so I'm probably going to wrap up here, but I'll reread this. March 12, 2:58 p.m. A quick rapping on my door woke me from my midday slumber. As I approached the door, a note was slipped inside. Before I picked it up, I glanced down the hall, but whoever delivered the letter had vanished. Inside was a note from Hjalper stating the residence of Reginald Fortescue Esquire had burned to the ground. Outside, I heard the sound of hail, but when I glanced up, it looked to be a swarm of locusts. All right, have a better idea of what is happening here narratively, um, and I think we're going to do some investigation of the burnt down house. Perhaps get some more clues there. Hoping that Astrid can get out of this unscathed because she had a very rough incident at the hunting lodge there and the cave. We'll have to figure out next time that whose dog that was. I'm sort of guessing that it's Reginald's, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm really enjoying playing this. It took me took me a second to remember how to actually play the game. It's been so long with the rolling of the dice. Um, however, let's see. I'm gonna switch my camera here. Uh, just a quick reminder that I am back on schedule unless anything happens in my life again. But I'm on schedule to do Design Lab on Wednesday and Crafternoon on Friday. Not really sure what I'm going to do for Crafternoon. I did get more floss for my over the garden wall pattern, so I might try to finish that. I'm also kind of in the middle of finishing a gift for Jess from D20 Dames um, before moving on to Spiritfarer Flowers. On Monday, though, I'm not going to be streaming Vaesen. Instead, I'm going to be streaming, it's my 50th birthday. I'm going to be streaming with friends in the evening. I know, Jane, the time zone is not the best. I couldn't do a weekend stream because everybody's schedule was so difficult this coming weekend. So I'm going to do it on my actual birthday on April 15th, and it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific. Um, yeah, I know, but hopefully you'll be able to catch the VOD after. I'm going to be running a game that I wrote called A Stitch in Time, and it's an Alice in Wonderland themed adventure that I'm just going to condense for the 2 hour period. Thank you, Jane. But hopefully I'll see you online either in Discord or on one of the other streams. Yeah. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.